Hello and welcome back to The Critique. Today we're looking at a video commentary called "The Democratic Party Wants to Destroy America."
Yeah, and it's a really interesting piece. It's part street reporting, part spiritual analysis, trying to argue that the left's political agenda is, well, a form of spiritual warfare.
It's definitely ambitious. Let's jump straight in because I think the first point of friction is really in how the whole argument is built.
Right. Okay, so the first area we really need to talk about is the logical bridge, the one connecting the small stories to the big claim.
The anecdotes to the system-wide argument.
Exactly. The whole piece relies so heavily on these very specific individual examples to prove this massive systemic conspiracy. But that logical bridge connecting the micro incidents to the macro indictment, it needs some serious reinforcement.
I think I know what you're getting at. He spends a lot of time on the ground level people, the foot soldiers, so to speak.
He does. A considerable amount of time. You've got Karen Shaw, the professional protester, and then Stuart Waldman from Rise and Resist. And the video does a good job mocking them, pointing out the hypocrisy with the signs or Waldman's apparent laziness.
Yeah.
But then it just leaps almost immediately from these couple of individuals to the conclusion that the entire Democratic Party is a criminal enterprise.
So it's a jump. You're going from a guy on a street corner in Rhode Island to condemning the whole DNC without, showing the steps in between.
Precisely. That's the missing piece. Is Stuart Waldman really connected to the top? Or is that just an assumption? To make the argument stronger, he needs to explicitly trace that chain of command, or maybe the funding, from these street-level people right up to the Gavin Newsoms of the world.
That makes a lot of sense. I mean, if you're going to call it a plantation, you have to show who's holding the strings, right?
Yes.
So let's talk about some concrete ways to do that.
Okay, take Karen Shaw. Instead of just showing her at two different protests to say, look, she's a professional, he could use a visual, a graphic, or even just a voiceover that links her group, Rise and Resist, directly to, say, a specific DNC funding body.
Like Act Blue or something?
Or the Tides Foundation. Anything. Don't just imply it. Show the paper trail. It moves the argument from look at this hypocrite to look at this paid employee.
I like that. That's much stronger.
For sure. And with Stuart Waldman, the host kind of mocks him for being lazy and points out the donation link goes to Act Blue, which is a good start, but it could be so much sharper.
How so?
Instead of focusing on his personality, show his work. Provide evidence of his specific interactions with elected officials. Does he have meetings with the mayor's office? Is he on some advisory board? That's the kind of thing that proves he's an arm of the state and not just some guy with a sign.
Right. And what about that whole section on the Palisades fires? The text messages?
Oh, that's the perfect place to tie this all together. The script brings up the virtue signaling about the fires, and then it mentions Act Blue fraud. He needs to connect them directly.
So, literally say it.
Literally state it. The money that was stolen from the fire relief fund is paying for the signs that Karen is holding. You make that accusation watertight, and the whole thing shifts from an observation to a real investigative report.
That would definitely raise the stakes. Okay, let's move on to the overall structure. This feels important. The video, it really feels like two different shows.
It really does.
It's an investigative piece, and then it's a religious sermon. And the transition between them is, it's pretty jarring.
That's a crucial point. The first half is all these gotcha moments, right? The fraud, Don Lemon's hypocrisy, Johnny Depp. It feels like a standard political commentary.
Yeah, very familiar.
But then, right around the part about the donkey's mouth, it just pivots so hard into Ephesians 6 and John 8:44.
It's like two different videos were stitched together.
It is. And the real risk there is that you lose the secular viewer. The person who was really into the expose on Karen Shaw suddenly feels blindsided when it turns into a sermon on spiritual hosts of wickedness. They might just click off right before the creator gets to his main point.
Okay, so how do you fix that pacing? You want to keep that spiritual punch, but you want it to feel earned.
I think the suggestion is to thread the spiritual thesis into the political stuff much earlier. You create a narrative through line, so the spiritual conclusion feels like the inevitable answer to all the political problems he raised, not like a separate segment tacked on at the end.
Okay, I see what you're saying. You're talking about foreshadowing, basically.
Exactly. Let's go back to the Act Blue fraud section. When he's talking about the sheer deception of it, stealing from fire victims, that's a perfect place to introduce the concept of spiritual wickedness.
So not quoting scripture yet?
Not yet. Just briefly mention that this level of deceit, it goes beyond mere politics. It touches on a kind of moral darkness.
You start using the language of the second half to describe the events of the first half.
That primes the audience. Okay, what about the journalist Nate Friedman?
Another great opportunity. The host praises him for touching ground. So why not foreshadow the armor of God reference from Ephesians right there? Describe Nate's bravery in spiritual terms.
Something like,
it takes a certain spiritual fortitude to walk into that kind of chaos. It just sets up the later call to stand against the wiles of the devil.
and there was that clip, that really shocking one of the woman attacking the ICE agent with her car.
That's probably the most visceral moment in the whole first half. He should frame her rage explicitly as a manifestation of the darkness he talks about later. Don't just call it violence from the left.
So you connect the act to the spiritual condition immediately.
Right. Say, this isn't just anger, this is a spirit of destruction. Then, when you get to John 8:44 later, the audience is already thinking, oh, that's what was going on with that woman in the car, instead of, wait, why are we reading the Bible all of a sudden?
Yeah, it makes the scripture feel like the solution to a mystery you've already presented. That's a really smart structural fix. Now, I do want to talk about the creator's voice. He's passionate, he's high energy. But let's talk about the rhetoric.
Okay.
While his passion is super engaging, the constant reliance on ad hominem attacks and some of the dehumanizing language might actually undermine his stated goal, which is to wake people up.
This is such a fascinating tension in this script, isn't it? On one hand, he explicitly says, I feel sorry for these people, and talks about them being blinded by darkness. He even shows empathy, talking about his own past.
Right.
But then in the very next breath, he's using nicknames like Pocahontas, Lemonhead, or saying Maxine Waters looks like Eddie Murphy in drag.
It's a real mixed message, like, I pity you for being spiritually lost, but also, you look ridiculous.
Exactly. And if your goal is persuasion, that kind of mockery just creates a defensive wall. Any skeptical viewer, or even just a moderate who might be open to the spiritual argument, they're going to be turned off by the schoolyard insults.
So the suggestion is to make the tone of the political commentary match the compassion of the spiritual conclusion.
Yes. If the final diagnosis is that these people are victims of principalities and powers, then the rhetoric should reflect a sense of tragic loss, not just mockery. You can still be tough, but attack the ideas, not how someone looks.
Let's get specific. The Don Lemon segment?
Yeah, the notes on this are pretty clear. I mean, what if he just dropped the personal attacks there complete? The host calls Don Lemon's husband puppy chow. He mocks their relationship. It's just a distraction.
And it takes away from the actual point.
It really does. The legitimate point is the hypocrisy of Lemon calling for violence, punch him in the face, while claiming he's against violence. Focus on that. That fits the whole darkness versus light theme perfectly. The puppy chow comment just feels petty.
And what about the vigil for the attacker?
The white lesbian comment. He's mocking their identity. Instead of that, he could pivot to analyzing their blindness to the truth. Frame it as a tragedy.
How would that sound?
Something like, look at how they're mourning a criminal. They're so lost, they can't discern truth from lies. That sets up the whole father of lies arc, John 8:44, so much more effectively than just making fun of it.
That's much more powerful. And the Johnny Depp part? It got a little confusing.
It did. Jack, not the real Jack, Johnny Jack, it just muddies the water. He should refine. Focus on the cultural impact of a beloved actor joking about assassinating a president. Keep the focus on the danger of that rhetoric, not on his filmography. The point is that death threats are being normalized. Stick to it.
Okay, that brings us to our last point of critique, which is more on the technical side, the execution of using the clips. The piece makes great use of all this archival footage, but the host's commentary very frequently talks over the source audio. It kind of clutters it up.
This is a classic issue, right? You get so excited to debunk the clip that you just talk all over it. And it happens a few times, like with the Maxine Waters clip or that Ashley Babbitt audio. The host's reaction sometimes completely obscures what the person is actually saying.
You want the evidence to stand on its own first, before you tear it down.
Exact. The suggestion here is pretty simple. Employ a play, then pause, and analyze structure. Let the incriminating clip play clearly and fully. Let it establish the fact. Then you pause it and deliver your knockout.
Okay, let's look at that opening audio. The Ashley Babbitt getting eaten by worms line. It's really shocking.
It's incredibly shocked, but the host starts talking almost immediately. The better way to do it is to play it and then pause. Let that horrible statement hang in the silence for a beat. Then come in and say, that was a leftist protest. This is the hatred we are up against. When you rush past it, you actually lessen its horror.
And the clip of the Missouri state senator.
The one calling for Trump's assassination, yeah. That's a serious death threat. But the host immediately jumps into the Eddie Murphy joke about Maxine Waters right after.
It just undercuts the seriousness of it all.
Completely. Let the threat play out in silence. The audience needs to feel the weight of what she said. If you joke right away, it becomes entertainment. If you let it breathe, it becomes evident.
That's a really important distinction. And finally, the visual of Karen's shawl.
Right, the ban guns, not drag sign. It's a fantastic visual. But again, the host is moving so fast, he needs to make sure his narration matches what's on screen so that irony can really land. Just say, look at the sign on the left. Now look at the sign on the right. You have to guide the viewer's eye before you start the commentary.
It seems like just slowing down just a tiny fraction to let the evidence speak for itself would make his commentary hit so much harder.
Absolutely. He has all the charisma in the world. He just needs to trust his evidence a little more. Let it do the work for him before he steps in.
Well, that brings us to the end of our analysis. This was a really dynamic piece. Let's recap the main actionable feedback.
Sure.
First, build that stronger evidential bridge. Don't just show us the foot soldiers. Show us the funding, the command chain that connects them to the generals.
Second, weave those spiritual themes in from the beginning. Don't save the theology for a big reveal at the end. Frame the political events in spiritual terms early on.
Third, refine the rhetoric. If the goal is to wake people from darkness, drop the schoolyard insults. Make the tone match the compassion of your spiritual message. Focus on the tragedy of their blindness.
And finally, let your source clips breathe. Use that play, pause, analyze technique. Let the audience hear the lie clearly before you come in and dismantle it.
Yeah.
You know, I really want to encourage this creator. The spiritual warfare angle is a powerful niche. He clearly has the voice for it. It's just about disciplining that passion a little bit so that the logic is as strong as the delivery. When you make the argument watertight, the spiritual payoff is so much more devastating.
We'd love to see how this piece evolves. To the creator, please refine the script based on these notes and feel free to submit the next iteration. We would be happy to take another look. And thanks for listening to The Critique.